Okay, for this week, we are going to start on the chapter 2 regarding the research process of the marketing research. So, so this is the learning outcomes or the learning objective of this chapter, which is you will be able to understand different stages of the research process and how to formulate the research problem, types of choice of research design, determining of the sources of data, and how you're going to design the data collection forms, and also the sampling design and sample size determination, organizing and conducting the field survey, as well as analyzing the collected data. As also in this chapter, you also could be able to prepare for what are the the prepare the research process, which is at the end of the your research. You are going to go deeper in terms of the research report, as well as questions to be addressed at the various stages of the research process. So what are the issues that perhaps that maybe comes to your mind when it comes into this research process. And of course, we are going to discuss the types of errors in the research process. Okay, so as I informed you earlier that there are research process in marketing, consists of several stages, starting from the identify and formulate the research problem. And after that, you have to do like choose the research, what are the appropriate research design for your research that you're going to conduct, and determine the information needs and sources of data is also another steps that you need to do after you already choose the right research design for of your research. And after that, you're going to go into the next stage of the, design the data collection forms. And after that is a sampling design. And what are the design, I mean, the sample size, the numbers of sample size that you are going to consist in your research. And of course is you organize and conduct the field survey, which is at this stage you have to go to the field work and analyze and interpret the collected data and prepare the research report. So all of these are the steps of the research process that you need to really understand and memorize. I think that you need to know that these are the process that you have to go through after this. Okay, and let's go to the first steps of research process. Number one is you need to identify and formulate of the research problems. So of course, in order for you to conduct your research, right, one thing that most of the popular question will be asked by the examiner or maybe the readers: why you want to conduct this research? There must be a reason. There must be a, motivation why you want to do this research. So the first step in research is you need to formulate a research problem. So the research problem is what's happened. So why you want to do this research? So this stage is a very important stage for you, especially regarding to the applied research, which is if you poorly define your problems, it will not give you impactful result of your research that you expect comes from your research. And it is rightfully said that a problem well defined is half solved. So you need to do like, why do you want to do this? Why you want to research on that? So what? So what is the justification? Justification has to be provided, okay? And in order to identify the research problem, there are three categories of symptomatic situations that you need to consider. Number one is overt difficulties. You try not to be so complicated research that you want to conduct. And of course, it's a latent difficulties and unnoticed opportunities that should be studied. Okay. So some examples of a management and research problem, as you can see on the screen now, that I share between the research, the difference between of the management problems and research problem is one of it that you need to consider as. For example, like for the management problems is allocation of advertising budget among different media types. So that is a kind of the problems that why you want to need to educate. That is from the perspective or the company perspective. Whereas for the research problem, normally they look into that undertaking the research to ascertain awareness generated by each media type. So perhaps as you can see, I hope that maybe you can see that these are the 8 examples of management problems, and the other one is the 8 examples of the research problem. How you're going to differentiate between these two problems that in order for you to get a very good research problem of your research. Okay, so and of course is formulation of the research is you need to identify a formulation of the research problem. So of course a complete problem definition must be specified each of the following, which is you need to consider all of these 4 factors of the problem definition, which is you need to consider what is a sample and sampling units, time and space boundaries, characteristics of interest, as well as environmental condition. So the next step of here is the next step of the research process is the choice of research design, which is you need to specify what are the methods and procedures in conducting the particular study. So at this stage is very important for you to see kind of the research design that you have. And it's a broadly speaking that research design can be grouped into 3 categories, which is namely is exploratory research, descriptive research, and causal research design. So what are the difference between these 3 different design of research? Number one is when you're talking about the exploratory research design is something new that you want to explore. It's a new study that you want to know what's happening, some things that which is never been conducted before. This kind of we call as a exploratory research. The number 2 is descriptive research design. So this descriptive research design is related into that you describe, you explain about that research. So for example, like demographic profile. So the demographic profiles are how many percent of men and women in Kota Kinabalu area, for example. So maybe you can explain about that, the category of the age, for example. So that is a descriptive research design. Whereas the causal research design referring to the cause and effect. What is the cause and what is the effect between these two, A and B? So what is the effect? Which means that we want to see the relationship, whether is A is really affect or maybe influence B to become positive or to become negative. So this is what we call as the cause and effect research design. The choice of the research design you're going to choose depends essentially on the nature of the problem on which the research is to be undertaken. Another factor that is also relevant in this respect is the scope of the proposed study. So these are the types of research design, as you can see here, figure 2.2, which is types of research design can be, which is what I already explained just now, can be categorized into 3: exploratory, descriptive, and causal research. And of course, you can see that there's there is under the exploratory research here studies here, they have a literature review and experience survey as well as focus group and analysis. Okay, so this is another things that maybe you can consider as well under the exploratory studies. And the second one is descriptive study, is on the longitudinal study that we want to see for the long term. And of course it consists of the true panel and also omnibus panel. Okay, and let me check. Presenter view. And the causal studies is natural experiments, or maybe you can look into the control experiments, which is consists under the nature experiments. There are three different types of natural experiments, namely time series and trend design, cross-sectional design, and combination of the two designs lah. Okay. So at the next one is you need to determine information needs and sources of data. So at this stage is, the next step is to determine the needs and sources of data here. So when a study is based on the secondary data, whether partly or fully, it is necessary to satisfy oneself that the data are quite suitable for objectives spelled out in the study. So you have to remember when using this secondary data, yeah. So this the secondary data actually is you don't have to go to the field. So you base on the internet, whatever the data that you get from the internet. This one is we call as a secondary data. This is different compared to the primary data. So the primary data, the difference of the secondary data and primary data. So the primary data is you need to get the fresh data from the fieldwork, which means that you have to collect the data from your own, from the site or from the original sample that you already designed, that you planned earlier in the beginning of your research. So to begin with, one should be familiar with the authentic sources of the relevant data, their periodicity, the agency publishing or having such data, the concepts used in compilation, and their limitation, if any. Okay. Okay, for the next one is designing data collection forms. So this designing data collection forms is, that you need to have, decisions in order to, whenever that you already decided to do on the primary data or the secondary data. So once you already decided that you want to, for instance, that you want to focus more on the primary data, then you have to, focus on this, whether you want to do like kind of the approach in order to collect the data. So there are two methods available for this kind of the observational method and also survey method, especially when you want to do on this. Okay. And the next one is determining sampling design and sample size. So the marketing researcher decided to carry out a field work. She or he has to decide whether it is to be census or sample survey. So what it means by the census? The census means that you have to cover all set of abstraction objects belonging to the given population or universe. For example, like if the people, you need to conduct of the people in Kota Kinabalu. So you need to know that how many people in the Kota Kinabalu. If the population in Kota Kinabalu is 2 million, for example, you need to reach all the 2 million peoples in order to conduct for this research, if you choose a census as one of your methods. Whereas if you do the sample, okay, the sample is only the subset, okay, based on the subset of the given population or universe. You don't have to cover the whole 2 million, but at the same time that you just pick that which of the, the subset which is you think that is representative of the population. For example, out of the 2 million, I want to pick a 1%. So how many 1% of the 2 million? So perhaps that is 20,000, for example, or 10,000. So that is, the sample is all about. So you can select a specific type of sampling design from a number of sampling design, probability, or you can use a non-probability sampling design. Okay. And the next one is the sampling frame is the source material or device from which a sample is drawn. So for example, like remember just now that I want to study on the Kota Kinabalu people behavior on towards the advertising. Then the frame is the people in Kota Kinabalu who are living in Kota Kinabalu. That is the sampling frame. In regards to the sample size, there are no two basic approaches, the ad hoc or practical approach and the statistical approach. Okay, so these are the two things that perhaps that you can use. Whether now people are using the G power in order to understand how many samples that they must collect for that particular research. Okay. Organizing and conducting field survey is another phase of this research process, which is you need to have prepared the questionnaires and selected the sample design and size of sample. So the next step is to organize and conduct the field survey. To this end, two important aspects should be looked into, which is whether you number one is interview and the supervision of field work and the supervision of the field work. So these are the two things that you have to look into when you want to conduct for this survey. So how are you going to do in the interview and how you control the supervision during the field work. Okay. So the next step is analyzing and interpreting the collected data. So after this is happen when after you already completed the data collection process, which is you already complete your targeted data that you already planned earlier. So you need to do like to aggregate the data into a meaningful manner, which means that you have to edit and then to check everything whether it's okay to go to the next process. So so that in order for you to derive the results from the meaningful tables, the researcher may use one or more of the following steps for your analysis data. Whether you can go for the calculate relevant measures of central tendency as also dispersion in order to highlight the major aspect of the data. And also you can do like the cross tabulation the data to ascertain some useful relationship. In order, it depends on your objective, and calculate the correlation coefficient and undertake a regression analysis between variables. So sometimes that this happen when your data, your research is using the causal research or your causal research design, where you want to see that the relationship, the effect between the independent variable to the dependent variable. And finally, the fourth is to undertake the multivariate analysis for the interpreting the data collection lah. Okay, the data analysis. And next one is final stage is the preparing the research report. So after you already have a data and then you do analysis and then interpret all the data, then the marketing researcher is required to prepare the report, make it into a very good appropriate report to present all the findings of the research study. What is the conclusion that you can conclude from your research based on the data has been collected. And of course you have to refer the theory that you already align or highlight you employ in the beginning of your study, and focus on the managerial implications as well as the recommendation to the client. So what is the something new that perhaps that you can go and check with your client lah. So that is the process, and this is the questions that need to be addressed at the various stages of the research process. As for example, like maybe you can look into the data by data process, step by steps of the process of the research process. For example, like formulate the research problem. So you need to understand what is the purpose of the study that you want to conduct this research. Is it to solve the problem or to identify an opportunity or any background information available that perhaps you can look into? and what is likely to be the cost of information that may have to be collected. So you want to know that, let's say, for example, like I want to do a research on the social media marketing. So why you want to do on the social media marketing? What happened? So what happened to the social media industry in Malaysia? Is it because of the users or the people in Malaysia? About 80% of the internet user, they do have a social media account. So that is a kind of a reason maybe can give you a justification why you want to do this research. And types of research design. So you need to understand the nature of the problem. Okay, what is the scope of the proposed study? What type of study will be? Is it as exploratory, descriptive, or causal? So will be a combination of this. So that is things that you have to answer also, and then you need to understand in the beginning of your study. Number three is you need to determine your source of data, where you can get all of this data. This also another questions that you need to really very clear in the beginning of the process of the marketing research report. And the next one is you need to design of the collection forms. Okay, what kind of the collection you want to do online? You want to do a survey, you go to the visit and interview one face to face, or you just email them, or using the WhatsApp, or maybe a video interview. So this is a kind of the forms of the data collection that we have you can use. In terms of the sample design and sample size, so how many you need to decide on the responding, and then of course every decision made you need to be justified. Okay, what basis that you follow or you use in order to set for your your sample size. Okay, and organizing and conducting the field survey. So who will be going to in charge of the data collection? Is it you yourself, or are you going to appoint someone else in order to collect the data on behalf of you? Okay, and if you use other people, how are you going to train them? So what kinds of method that you use? Are you brief them briefly or not? And next one is analyze and interpret the collected data. So who will be responsible for screening and dating of the data? So you yourself, or you have the research assistant to help you for this. So all of these have to, something that you need to decide earlier. So of course, it's a lots of work that need to be involved, by the researcher. So, but of course, a good exposure is, also a good, you can gain a good exposure from this. Okay. Questions to be addressed at the various stages. For example, preparing the research report. Who will prepare who going to write? What is the competence of the person preparing the report? So all of this is another, the questions that you need to be decide. Of course, the leader has to decide, or maybe those who have, maybe if you can identify any of your members who are, experts in any particular job, that maybe you can assign a delegate to that person. And what are the errors, especially comes into this for research process? Sampling errors or non-sampling errors. There are so many errors here, but what I think that I hope that maybe you can look into one by one of these errors. So of course, try to minimize the errors. And of course, that why is it the errors is very important for you to take note, because of we don't want that the quality of the data involved after you already collected the data and process. We don't want that your result reflect from it's the result is because of the errors that has been made during the process of the data collection. So that is one thing that you need to be very particular. Of course, I leave it to you to understand what is a defective problem definition, sampling frame errors, whether you collect a different or errors, the sample which is not right or representative of that particular study. For example, like you want to study of the UMS students currently who are active students in UMS, but sometimes that you collected to those who already graduated, which is they are not active, or maybe these students, they are still in UMS student, but the student is in the deferment period, which means that they are not active at that particular semester. So they are not correct. So in this case, that you are doing the sampling error. So which means that for this case, that student cannot be considered as what as your data in this case. So that is one thing. Okay. So I think that's all for this chapter 2 for this marketing research. Thank you.